He had a disgusting face. The guy hit, but it did not bring much harm to the monster. Damn, do they have a big difference in realms. If he couldn't kill him with one blow, he would cut him dozens, hundreds of times. And the guy fulfilled this whole promise, hitting again and again non-stop. The magic light, sensing the boy's wishes, also hit the monster in the face. Finally, she started to crack. But the guy decided to cut until the soul of the ghostly king goes to the next world. And finally it was crushed into small pieces. He was dead. The monster's dead body began to topple back. Kai pulled his sword out of him with a shout. As soon as he did this, the body of the monster lit up. Gradually, all of his flesh began to disappear, leaving only bare bones. Pulling the sword from the bone, the guy moved away from the body. The light went out, the flame died down. It was still raining outside. Damn, Lin Kai almost died. His physical and spiritual powers were at their limit. The boy looked back at the man's body. If Zhao Kongchen had not exhausted the ghostly king in the previous battle, the guy would not have had a chance against this Hulk. The boy took the man's hand in his. The guy felt guilty only before 3 people in his life: an aunt who worked for 10 years for him, a cousin whom he humiliated for the same 10 years. The guy put Zhao on his shoulder. He had to be taken somewhere far away from this haunted place. The third person that Kai felt guilty about was him, Buddy. Zhao protected the boy's family at the cost of his own life. He saved his entire world in exchange for his life. Now, in order to pay him, he would defend the world that was dear to him for 10 years, for which Zhao fought, for their planet. The squad that was supposed to come to help Zhao with the Phantom King only arrived at that moment. Seeing that the man was being dragged, they were glad that he was found, but as soon as they approached, they were overtaken by horror. Tears rolled down the boy's face, but he found the strength to report that he, Junior Lin Kai, had brought the general, the leader of the squad, Zhao Kongchen, in the appropriate order. The name of Zhao Kongchen resounded over the old city. At Kai's home, his family was still sitting at the table. Aunt sighed sadly, no longer touching the food. The younger brother asked his mother to eat, but she still couldn't. The boy's brother just took it and ran away right during the meal. Why hasn't he returned yet? Nothing happened to him, did it? But the boy reassured his mother she could not worry, everything would be all right with her brother. He's already an adult, right? The boy bet that Kai created his own business. The woman cheered up a little at these words. She hoped that the guy was all right. And yes, he has grown up. The streets of the city were quiet and calm, an ordinary day like any other. Kai was sitting on the sofa in the room. A man was sitting opposite him at the table, and Hong Ying was leaning on the back of the sofa. The guy was asked if he was the young man that old Zhao, Seraph Agent Lin Kai, was looking for. Yes, it was him, that's right. But in the room, besides them on the floor, people from the detachment were sitting near the table. Kai had already made it very clear that Zhao Kongchen opened the annular airspace, and until the very end, he fought the ghostly king alone. He died, but at the same time he took the ghostly king to the grave. But Wu Xiangnan, deputy captain of the 136th Night Watch Squad in Kangnan City, still had some questions. For example, how then did Lin Kai manage to get inside the annular airspace? The guy explained that he looked at him with a fierce look and it let him in. When Kimo was very impressed, he asked the guy to describe the battle in more detail. How exactly did Zhao Kongchen kill the Ghost King? But Lin Kai was not difficult to tell. Zhao swung his sword, carving a crescent moon in the air, and thus cut off the head of the ghostly king. Hong An asked again. Crescent. Capital got up from his desk. Yes, it was a twinkling moon. Old Zhao used the power of ghosts and spirits to activate his own forbidden ruin. Sequence 083, Shimmering Moon. Using this forbidden ruin is a very risky business. The girl got sad. Who would have thought that Uncle Zhao would awaken the forbidden ruin at such a desperate moment? It seemed to the captain that even after awakening the forbidden ruin, Zhao himself could not believe it. Everyone remembered how he told what he would do if he had a forbidden ruin. He would be so proud of her, as his only and beloved child, would appreciate and idolize. The second girl wiped away her tears. The masked young man furrowed his brows. Wu Xiangnan crumpled some paper in his hand. Everyone thought about the same thing, about the death of one of the best fighters, Zhao Kongchen. Okay, they won't stand around like fools. Everyone should have introduced themselves. The man with the leaf in his hand introduced himself as Wu Xiangnan, and he was the deputy captain of the 136th Night Watch Squad in Kangnan City. The guy behind him is the squad leader Chen Mui. The girl standing by the sofa is the vanguard of the 136th Night's Watch, Hong Ying. The guy who was deeply interested in Kai's history is the vanguard of the 136th Night Watch, Hong Ying's assistant, Wen Kimo. The second girl who is still unsuccessfully trying to stop her tears is Zai Zionan, a military doctor, and she was also in charge of combat training. The masked guy was in charge of long-range combat support, Len Chuan. Once everyone introduced themselves, Wu Xiangnan continued, that was not all. Burn marks were found on the face of the ghostly king's corpse, the origin of which they never figured out. But Wu Xiangnan was killed. The captain thought that the questions about Zhao Kongchen had been settled. He put a chair in front of where the guy was sitting. It's time to talk directly about Lin Qiai. He was first asked about why he wanted to join the night watch, but he only wanted to pay Zhao Kongchen for everything he did for the guy. Before Kai Yi died, he made a promise to the man. He will join the night watch for exactly 10 years. Exactly 10 years later he will leave. But the deputy captain believed that the guy apparently did not understand something. The night watchman was not some sort of community volunteer. As soon as someone joins them, he will no longer be able to leave them. Everyone is with them to the end. And what this guy said about leaving now, it depended only on his own abilities. But Kai Yi did not lose his head. He offered another option. And how do they know that if in 10 years he does not have enough strength to leave, then this will only be his problem? The captain smiled. Good. In this case, he will immediately register his application for membership. Training will begin 1 month after the application is accepted. The Night Watch is a paramilitary organization. Before newcomers officially join them, they must take part in the training camp exercises. There they learn martial arts, firearms, tactics, forbidden ruins, and more. Until training begins, Kai Yi will only be considered a temporary member of the Night Watch, count as a trainee. But that was exactly what the guy wanted. By the way, they do not pay for trainees' accommodation and meals. Don't pay. And where do they offer the guy to live for a whole month? Hong An touched his shoulder. He could not be worried, because the girl offered him to overturn with her. She had a big house. There would be plenty of space for two. The girl told Brother Kiai not to worry. He was almost a member of their squad already, so Sis would take care of him. At this, the guy thanked Hong An's sister somewhat embarrassedly. When Chemo, noticing the boy's slight embarrassment, told Hong Ying not to scare the rookie like that, to which the girl replied that it was so dishonest. The guy did not pay attention to this and offered to show everything to the new one himself. As they walked down the hallway, the guy turned to Kiai with a very strange request. He took the guy by the shoulders and continued. Could he go live with him at Hong An's house? He had dreamed of living with her for a long time. The new one was stalled. He could not say anything, except for a drawn-out "E." Ha ha ha, he was just joking. Kiai could not be so nervous. He just wanted to say that if Ling Kiai has questions, let him ask them now. But when Chemo at first seemed to be a very serious person, then the guy decided to think for a while. Then why are there only 6 of them? Wow, he caught everything on the fly. He was so quick to notice such insignificant details before he came to them personally. He thought that the Night Watch was some kind of big organization, that they had tanks, planes parked at a forbidden military base. But he was wrong. The Night Watch did not belong to the army. He thought they were a militarized and rule-governed organization. Yes, this is not bad, but there is one huge drawback in such bulkiness. The guys went out of some room to the roof. Lack of mobility. When Chemo decided to give an example. Right now, a mythical creature has appeared, say, in the city of Kangna. After local confirmation, a message about this is sent to the military base, to the general headquarters, and there they should already figure out who to send to this mission. It takes at least 2 days to prepare for this mission. And then Kai already began to reason himself. And during this time, many people can die. Exactly. Therefore, the best solution for their organization was to deploy several Night Watch detachments in each city. When traces of mythical creatures are found in one of the cities, the team stationed in it directly reacts and deals with them. Their 136th detachment is stationed in the city of Kangna. Then it was now clear why they had such a clear division of labor in the detachment. Everyone is responsible for what he is really strong in. That's right, from combat support to the vanguard. Each team member has their own strengths. They add up and in total you get the perfect combat squad. And if the deployed team does not cope, then it will immediately send a message and reinforcements will arrive in the city, a special forces detachment. In addition to the detachments stationed in each city, there are 4 special forces units throughout the country. When a situation arises that the local Night Watch squad cannot handle, they call for support. But all members of the Night's Watch have 5 human ceilings. Human ceilings. Yes, and they are called weapons, cavalry, body, heaven, teacher. The captain smiled. Good. In this case, he will immediately register his application for membership. Training will begin 1 month after the application is accepted. The Night Watch is a paramilitary organization. Before newcomers officially join them, they must take part in the training camp exercises. There they learn martial arts, firearms, tactics, forbidden ruins, and more. Until training begins, Kai Yi will only be considered a temporary member of the Night Watch, count as a trainee. But that was exactly what the guy wanted. By the way, they do not pay for trainees' accommodation and meals. Don't pay. And where do they offer the guy to live for a whole month? Hong An touched his shoulder. He could not be worried, because the girl offered him to overturn with her. She had a big house. There would be plenty of space for 2. The girl told Brother Kiai not to worry. He was almost a member of their squad already, so Sis would take care of him. At this, the guy thanked Hong Yin's sister somewhat embarrassedly. When Chemo, noticing the boy's slight embarrassment, told Hong Ying not to scare the rookie like that, to which the girl replied that it was so dishonest. The guy did not pay attention to this and offered to show everything to the new one himself. As they walked down the hallway, the guy turned to Kai with a very strange request. He took the guy by the shoulders and continued. Could he go live with him at Hong Yin's house? He had dreamed of living with her for a long time. The new one was stalled. He could not say anything, except for a drawn-out "E." Ha ha ha, he was just joking. Kai could not be so nervous. He just wanted to say that if Lin Kai has questions, let him ask them now. But when Chemo at first seemed to be a very serious person, then the guy decided to think for a while. Then why are there only 6 of them? Wow, he caught everything on the fly. He was so quick to notice such insignificant details before he came to them personally. He thought that the Night Watch was some kind of big organization, that they had tanks, planes parked at a forbidden military base. But he was wrong. The Night Watch did not belong to the army. He thought they were a militarized and rule-governed organization. Yes, this is not bad, but there is one huge drawback in such bulkiness. The guys went out of some room to the roof. Lack of mobility. When Chemo decided to give an example. Right now, a mythical creature has appeared, say, in the city of Kangnan. After local confirmation, a message about this is sent to the military base, to the general headquarters, and there they should already figure out who to send to this mission. It takes at least 2 days to prepare for this mission. And then Kai already began to reason himself. And during this time, many people can die. Exactly. Therefore, the best solution for their organization was to deploy several Night Watch detachments in each city. When traces of mythical creatures are found in one of the cities, the team stationed in it directly reacts and deals with them. Their 136th detachment is stationed in the city of Kangnan. Then it was now clear why they had such a clear division of labor in the detachment. Everyone is responsible for what he is really strong in. That's right, from combat support to the vanguard. Each team member has their own strengths. They add up and in total you get the perfect combat squad. And if the deployed team does not cope, then it will immediately send a message and reinforcements will arrive in the city, a special forces detachment. In addition to the detachment stationed in each city, there are 4 special forces units throughout the country. When a situation arises that the local Night Watch squad cannot handle, they call for support. But all members of the Night's Watch have 5 human ceilings. Human ceilings. Yes, and they are called weapons, cavalry, body, heaven, teacher. The woman was holding a paper in her hands, on which was written attributed, joining the army. But why? Why would her nephew decide to join the army himself? He didn't tell her about it. But Kiai's cousin said that the brother had already mentioned it once. Is it? Yes, when they were alone, he said that his main dream was to join the army. But due to the fact that he completely lost sight, he refused it. But it's too unexpected. He just got his sight, and he's like that right away. What if he gets it all back? The men who were seated at the table replied that they had done a detailed examination of Lin Kiai's eyes, so there was nothing to worry about. There will be no more problems. It was a huge relief. Chen Muai pushed a stack of red bills across the table. He said it was Lin Kiai's subsidies to join the army. She had to accept the money. But the woman began to worry about the fact that there, in her opinion, was too much. She was right. But when Chemo was explaining that a new policy had recently been put in place to improve the welfare of the soldiers, so Lin Kai was also on this list and would be entitled to more special subsidies. Special subsidies? Is he involved in something dangerous? Ms. Wang Feng began to worry even more. Where was his military base? Far from their home. It's cold there. Was he really safe? Maybe he's not used to the military. How long will it take? Could she call Lin Kai? Yes, yes, and yes. The men would continue to answer all the questions that the woman was interested in, but they already had to go. At the entrance, Kai Yi was already waiting for the men. When Chemo said how exhausted I was from talking to Ms. Wang Feng, stronger than doing the job. To this, Captain Chen Muai replied that she immediately believed everything and took the money. Lin Kai thought it was wonderful, but it was his annual salary, which he asked for in advance. Was he really sure that it was worth giving her every single yuan? But the guy was confident in his actions. Yes, and he himself put aside money for a while. The accumulated amount should be enough for him for a year. If so, then the captain was calm, getting ready to go about his business. He patted the guy on the shoulder and told him to come to the office for dinner. But aren't accommodation and meals included in the price? The men unanimously replied that accommodation and meals are not included in the price. But this applies to dishes that they cook themselves. Lin Kai rubbed the spot above his lip. As soon as Chen Mui and Wen Chemo got into the car and left, Kiai's phone rang. It was an aunt, and the guy immediately answered that it was him. She asked him why he didn't tell her that he was going to be a soldier. She wouldn't stop him, and he knew it. So why didn't you just warn? The guy smiled sadly. He replied to his aunt that he was sincerely sorry that he was wrong. The very territory of the psychiatric hospital included not only that huge castle. There were small forests, paths between them, even something like playgrounds. On one of these sites with cleared land and mowed grass there was a swing. Nukta was swinging on this swing. She flew either forward or backward. Sometimes her legs flew close to the grass, but did not touch it. It was impossible to say that this brings some pleasure to the goddess, but there was still nothing to do. When she once again kicked off the ground with her foot and flew, she walked strongly in her back, allowing her to see what was behind her before. Yes, everything was upside down, but she saw the one who approached the swing. Ah, it was him. It came to see her. Nukta still considered the guy her child. And now it's time to take the medicine. She should have remembered by now that as soon as she finished taking her medication, all her children would return. The woman popped the right pills into her mouth and chewed them. Kai, on the other hand, sat down on a nearby swing, stretched out his legs and lowered his head, exhaling noisily. Even the goddess of the night noticed that something seemed to be bothering him. She handed him a cup of water. The guy only confirmed her guesses. Then she decided to give him a present. Present? Nukta threw her hand, clenched into a fist, forward. Yes, she will give him her bracelet. If he wears it, the goddess will always be by his side. But looking down at her wrist, she froze in bewilderment. There was no bracelet. She turned her head in all directions. Her bracelet. Where is her bracelet? Oh, she remembered. She lost her bracelet. Lost. What god won it from her? Kai already reached for his encyclopedia of myths, but Nukta answered, no, it was not a god. She was just like the guy himself. So she meant that there was someone else there before him, and this someone took her bracelet. Could it be that Kai is not the only visitor to this psychiatric hospital? Were there other people there 5 years ago? Did Nukta remember what she looked like? But the goddess remembered. She remembered a girl of about 12 or 13. With long black hair, very beautiful. The woman saw a certain pattern in this. How exactly did she win the bracelet from her? Was it some kind of dispute? Nukta explained that the girl said she wanted to try her luck. And if she lost, she would give the goddess her child. And if the goddess herself loses, then she gives her her bracelet. A little girl defeated a powerful goddess who created the whole world. Did she remember anything about her, maybe even her name? Yes, like Jai. After talking with the goddess Kai, Yo decided to block everything that was possible in the psychiatric hospital. After that girl was there must have been some clues left. Where the hell can he find it? Here it is. There was a piece of paper taped under the table. The guy pulled it off the table and unfolded it. It was some kind of letter, disgusting handwriting, but the content was still clear. To someone, I do not know who you are, but I am already sure that you are the true owner of this place. Please don't laugh at my handwriting while reading this letter. I'm still a child after all. I'm sorry for delaying the transfer of the mental hospital to you. The true owner, I'm really sorry. And I borrowed something from your patient, but don't worry, someday I will definitely return this thing back. I also wanted to say that there is an important place downstairs, under this mental hospital. Be sure to check it out. Well, bye-bye, stranger. When I grow up, I will definitely come back. We will definitely meet, because you are my hope to return home. Of course, in this psychiatric hospital, there are many more secrets hidden in this psychiatric hospital. Under the rugs in the same office, the guy found a hatch in the floor. Throwing it back, he found a ladder there and, without thinking twice, went down there. Having descended to the end of the stairs, he realized that there was a cage, but all the cells were empty, just an abandoned cell. Looking into another cell behind bars, the guy opened his eyes in surprise. There was a monster sitting on a stone behind bars. He didn't do anything, just humbly waited. It was the Ghost King. Seeing the one who approached the cell, the monster rushed to the bars and put its paw through the bars, hoping to get Linki. But it didn't work out, because the guy deftly dodged. The guy was already thinking about what the hell the ghostly king forgot there. But a sign with a message appeared on the grate. You have the power to determine the fate of the souls of the mythical creatures you kill. Like this ghostly king. Option 1, directly destroy his soul and completely erase him from this world. Option 2, make him fear you. When the fear value reaches 60, you will be able to hire him as an assistant in your hospital. He will care for the patients and ensure their protection. Current fear value, 1. That's it. It seems that in addition to the mysterious patients, this mental hospital has the ability to capture other people's souls. As long as the mythical creatures he killed are kept there, they can be accepted as helpers in the hospital. Then the mythical creatures that are mentioned there, could there be gods in their place? If Kai killed a true god, could he make him work for him? The Ghostface King roared again, but the guy just looked at him coldly. Hey, did he even understand what situation he was in at the time? He was very strong, so choosing him as your assistant would be a good idea, except that he was not welcome there. At the Lin Kiai hospital, the guy touched the creature. With just a touch of his hand, he destroyed it. Only the paw that the monster put through the bars of the cage remained to dissolve behind the back of the guy climbing the stairs. The next day, The guy went to headquarters. As soon as he entered, a fragment of some conversation reached his ears. Some woman told that she saw a monster. Kai became very interested. Even though he had mixed feelings when he heard these phrases, he went to the sound. In response, she was asked if it was some kind of mythical creature. Yes, the woman who said this was afraid that she would now tell, but no one would believe her. But she had nothing to worry about. She was even given a promise that they would believe in everything she just did not say. The guy had already reached the right door and looked out from behind it, began to observe what was happening. It turned out that it was Hong In talking to some old woman too. Just at that moment, the woman decided to tell everything that worried her. The case concerned her husband. All the time that they were together, the woman was sure of him. The girl asked her not to worry and to speak more slowly. The old woman continued. Recently they walked around the city. He held her hand, they talked, everything was fine. And the week before, he hadn't filed any ghosts. Hong In was supported by her grandmother, saying that everything was fine and that she could continue her story. The woman squeezed the girl's hands tightly. She began to tell that this time when they were walking, this seductress jumped out from around the corner, at least with a fourth breast size, and he fell for her boobs. Kai, who was still standing at the door, was at a loss and somehow even embarrassed. The woman ended her story there. Leaning on Wen Kimo, she stood up and walked towards the exit. Hong In said after her that this woman could not worry anymore because their company would take care of everything. Wen Kimo walked her to the street and wished her goodbye. When this grandmother left, Kai could calmly enter the room without disturbing anyone and find out everything that interested him. What was that now? But Hong In considered it a regular job. But Wen Kimo, who had already returned, decided to explain everything. Kai is a rookie, so you probably don't know, but in Gangneung City, there are only about 5 or 6 real mystery incidents a year. On ordinary days, they help ordinary citizens deal with their daily problems. So this way it was possible not only to find an occupation that would be to your liking, but also to earn extra money on any garbage. And if you're lucky, someday you'll stumble upon the same mystical incident. Well, that's great. So they were usually investigating old man and old lady extramarital affairs. For the most part, yes. Now the guy was all clear. He exhaled noisily. By the way, the captain asked Kai to visit him at the martial arts training ground. The boy furrowed his brows slightly. Fine. The guy went down the stairs and opened the door. In the training room sat cross-legged and put his fists on his knees, the captain. As soon as Kai entered, he opened his eyes and asked if he had come. The answer, of course, was consent. Chen Muai threw a sword at the guy, to which he, although confused, caught the weapon with one hand. He will not be given a cloak, nor a sword, nor a coat of arms. But this is until he enters full training. At first, he could use the sword that the captain threw. Not much after pulling it out of its scabbard, Kai saw the scratched owner's name. This is Lao Zhao's sword. The guy was one of those few who liked him, and the captain thought that Zhao would like Lin Kai to get his sword. There was still more than a month left before the start of the training camp. During this time, the captain decided to teach Kai something. But this is so that later you don't have to blush for him. From now on, every morning he would teach the boy how to use a sword, and in the afternoon he would study the Forbidden Ruins with Wen, and in the evening, the remaining weapons with Len Luan. Now it was time to start the first session. But they had real swords. But it didn't matter what they would train with. Then Kai will try to be more careful. The guy pulled his sword from its scabbard, jumped towards the captain and swung the sword over his head. But the guy was quickly thrown back into the boxes. He landed in them with a loud sound. The captain walked over to him, pointed his baton at him, and told him to get up to try again. And then he repeated it again. The guy grinned and found his sword in his hand. Wen Kimo, who walked past the door that led to the training hall, was surprised. From behind the doors there were shouts, noisy exits and phrases that said that it was necessary to start another run. The hand, completely covered with abrasions and bruises, clenched nervously. On a bench nearby lay an open first aid kit, from which bandages and peroxide had been pulled out. Stripped to the waist, Kai tried to sit still while Wen Kimo bandaged his arm. Wen Kimo thought that this guy seemed to have talent. During his first training, the captain beat him like a helpless baby. The captain's skills are terrifying. His swings are both too fast and heavy at the same time. But it was the most ordinary training. The guy was completely gone. He recalled how he raised his sword over his head, how he tried to defend himself against Chen Muai. So why did the captain beat Lin Kai so hard? Such hard hits. He did not feel an ounce of his mercy. Yes, now the only one who could at least minimally withstand the captain was Hong Ying. The guy became interested in how Zhao Kongchen coped. Zhao Kongchen, he was on the same level as the captain. Oh, Kai thought so. The binding was completed. Small abrasions all over the guy's body should have passed when he had a good night's sleep. And tomorrow he will come intact, and they will beat him again. When Kimo lightly patted the boy on the shoulder. But even from this, the newcomer in their squad felt pain and narrowed his eyes. The temporary doctor of the guy at that time took out something from the pocket of his jacket. The temporary doctor of the guy at that time took out something from the pocket of his jacket. It was a small book. The gym class was over. It was time to move on to discussing his forbidden ruin. How advanced was his mortal god realm? Kai raised his index finger up. In short, he felt literally everything within a radius of 20 meters. Here's how. At this time, Hongin walked past them. She didn't come up to them, didn't say anything to them, she just walked by. Both boys turned their heads and looked after the girl. He was especially obsessed with her butt. When the girl moved away from them at a sufficiently large distance, the guys synchronously turned their heads towards each other. They didn't say anything else, only Kai said they were white. When Kimo grinned at this and gave his interlocutor a thumbs up, which was pointing up, the boys stood up and shook hands with a loud bang. When the guy put on the t-shirt, when Kimo decided to start explaining what exactly the Forbidden Ruin was, it was the so-called division of the danger level of people. The higher the sequence, the more dangerous the person. The guy was holding a book called Forbidden Ruins sequence in his hand. Anything greater than or equal to 600 was classified as harmless ruin. It is of no use. With its help you can kill a maximum of a fly. The sequence from 400 to 599 is defined as low-risk Forbidden Ruin. At this level, you can kill someone, but more often than not, it was only severe injuries. From 200 to 399, Forbidden Ruins can be called dangerous. They pose a large-scale threat to human society, and with the help of them you can already fight with mythical creatures. High-risk Forbidden Ruins is sequence 90 to 199. Very high combat effectiveness. The probability is 1 in a million. Their captain was just one of those. As for Forbidden Ruins extra high risk, these are all that were in the range from 1 to 89. This tier has not only large-scale lethality, but also incredible special abilities. The people with these Forbidden Ruins had gone beyond the human category. They alone can destroy the city. If Shao Kongchen had awakened the Forbidden Ruin 083, the Twinkling Moon, then perhaps he would have become a general. When Kimo turned the page and closed his book, Lin Kai Forbidden Ruin Mortal God Realm, sequence 003. What? But he didn't need to rejoice ahead of time. 003 is the Burning Angel Forbidden Ruin, not Kai. He was a beginner and didn't really know anything, so such a fashionable ruin in his hands is good for nothing. That is, when Kimo wanted to say that the boy had not completely mastered the Forbidden Ruin, but Kai's current abilities were focused on perception and divination. Even though he could use some of that enormous power of the Flaming Angel, the power of his Forbidden Ruin was much greater than what he had at that moment. In other words, either the Flaming Angel gave him only a small fraction of all his power, either Kai had other abilities available to him, he just couldn't feel them and master them. And this part of his training was necessary so that he gradually began to use all the possibilities of his body. The guys entered a room. But the strangest thing that could be in this room is a lot of pistols placed on all sides. There were 39,000 miniature air pistols, and they could fire 39,000 rubber bullets per second. At that time, Kai was required to use his perception and dynamic vision to avoid all those bullets. When Kimo took out a tablet and began to press something there, he took into account that Kai was in a low realm, so they would start with 50 bullets per second. Wait, but why did the guy have such an ominous feeling? Fuck, are his feet stuck to the ground or what? The guy tried to lift his legs off the floor, but it didn't do much good. And what should he do now? Why does he have thoughts that he should not have been there at all? When Kimo explained that danger would always haunt him, where there is danger, there is also fear. In any real fight, there is no place where he would have to fight, and he would not feel fear at all. The beep sounded and it was time to start training. In the next moment, Kai saw the sight of the gun point straight at him. He called out to stop, but when there was no response, no action, he called out to go. Only now this did not cancel the fact that he would have to dodge shots. HMPH, when Kimo was smirking. Nothing hit him, and nothing was aimed at him. Kai continued to dodge. Rubber bullets bounced off the walls. When the shooting stopped, the guy exhaled. Now he understood the meaning of this training. But he relaxed early, as another bullet flew at him. She flew past her face, so Kai glanced at her. But she still hit him, so the guy screamed. Why is he beaten at every training session? This time, when Kimo couldn't help but smile. By the time the guy left school, it was already evening. Yi-Fi glanced back at the school building for the last time and walked slowly. So slowly that at some point his friends called out to him. They asked why he was walking so slowly. He had to move his hooves and catch up with them. He replied that he was coming. When he caught up with the guys, he put his arm around his shoulder. Did he see a killer? Why was he acting like a lost child? He's been suspicious all day. He behaved too cautiously. It was evident from him that he was afraid of something. Where has his courage gone? Yi-Fi frowned. He couldn't tell them anything. What did he mean? But the guy repeated that he would not tell them anything. He didn't want to talk about it at all. Suddenly he stopped. Friends asked what was the matter this time. He brushed off the guys and said that he forgot the key. He sent his friends to go without him, saying that he would catch up with them later. Every hour it got weirder and weirder. On the way back to school, Lai Yifei stopped all the time. He stopped near the school building, stopped in the corridor. He was careful not to let anyone see him. It was clear from the guy that he was afraid of something. He walked literally on shaking legs. Entering the office where he had lessons, he touched the table. Lai Yifei looked like he was looking for something. There was a thud in the hallway. Who is coming? Peeking slightly out of the door, he saw 2 pairs of shoes. When people got closer, it became clear that this was the headmaster and math teacher. The woman told the director to come to her, but the man didn't pay much attention to it. Why did they come to class? Really? The couple opened the door to the office, but they did not go further, but stood in the doorway. Lai Yifei had already managed to hide. What did she want from a man? There was something she had wanted to say to the director for a very long time. The guy in his hiding place lay in shock. Yeah, huh? The teacher had a crush on the principal? Yes, he is under 50. He already has bald patches on the top of his head. God, what kind of taste does she have? The man asked again what the math teacher wanted to tell him. In fact, she always wanted him. The woman licked her lips. Lai Yifei peeked out from his hiding place slightly. The woman's pupils became vertical. I wanted to eat it. At this time, some kind of metamorphosis took place with the woman's head. She had large fangs, her neck lengthened. Now her head was similar to the head of a snake, only on a human body. The man screamed heart-rendingly, but it was already too late. The monster had swallowed him completely, leaving only a small pool of blood on the floor. Lai Yifei was sitting and trembling at this time under the table. He didn't know what to do next. The sky was getting darker and darker. Night has come. It was evening, but it was already quite dark. On the streets, windows and houses and advertising signs burned brightly in different colors. Kai was studying with Lin Xuan at that time. The guy was holding a pistol assembly diagram in his hands. The gun is the material embodiment of human genius. For newbies like him, guns are like life insurance. Although it does not cause serious damage to high-level mythical creatures, it is more effective against low-level firearms than melee weapons. And now the guy had to show everything that he was capable of. Lin Xuan quickly glanced at the stopwatch, and then shouted at the guy to start. As soon as this signal sounded, the guy began to collect a gun. The guy tried to calm himself, calm down and disassemble every detail, then put it back together. The guy was already reloading the gun. Now it was necessary to make 3 shots in one direction. Without wasting a second, he pulled the trigger 3 times. He finished, but he didn't remove the firearm from his face yet. Kai looked at the holes left by the bullets in the target. The guy asked Lin Xuan how he liked his skills. The distance from the admissible edge of the target was quite large. To put it mildly, a blind man would do better. Kai smirked. Actually, not so long ago he was blind. He walked along the corridor towards the entrance, dressing in parallel. Another day of training has passed. He fought the captain again, and he beat the guy again. But training with a pistol brought him back to his tone. Even though he liked it, he didn't even have any talent in the weapons field. He would have walked like this, immersed in his thoughts, if he had not been called and told to wait. Kai turned around with a question on his face. The captain stood at the door of the room, with an apron on his body and a large cauldron, from which steam still came. Shen Mui told the guy not to stand like a glass and stop for dinner. He instantly came to his senses, entered the room and sat down at the table. Wu Xian argued with Hong Ying over who took the first piece of meat. Everyone, of course, believed that he was the first, but the girl was already boiling, because this piece of meat should be hers. Everyone was having a pretty active meal. Only Kai acted either modestly or just strangely. The captain, who drew attention to this, told him that it was already 7 o'clock in the evening, supper time. Even if he was not used to eating at this time, he should have eaten at least stewed vegetables. Uncle Chen did his best. Zai Zionan told him that he was eccentric. Wu Xian continued to argue with the avant-garde for a piece of meat. Hong An was already screaming that she was ready to lose her arm just to get this piece. The argument went on and on. At some point, the dispute ended. After a few minutes of silence, Lin Xuan was told not to dare to draw weapons at the table next time. Once in his temporary home, Kai collapsed on the bed exhaustedly and exhaled. Finally, this day passed, lay down on the bed and received such satisfaction. The guy remembered the words of the captain, who he said that day in training. Don't hold on to the sword so hard. Otherwise, he will not have time to regroup and he will not be able to quickly switch from attack to defense. Don't hold on to the sword so hard. Ha! The boy got out of bed and took out his sword. Okay, he'll try again.